The white van pulled up to the curb so fast that Naomi dropped her serving tray. She watched through the cafe window as two men in dark clothing jumped out and grabbed the small girl with the white cane. The child's mouth opened in a scream that Naomi couldn't hear through the glass, but she saw the terror in the little girl's face. The elderly woman beside the child tried to hold on, but one of the men shoved her hard to the ground. Naomi's heart stopped. The girl was blind. She was alone. And no one else on the busy street seemed to notice what was happening. Without thinking, Naomi ran. She burst through the cafe door, her apron still tied around her waist, her sneakers pounding against the hot pavement. The men were already trying to push the girl into the van. The child was crying, reaching out with her small hands, trying to find something to hold on to. "Hey! Stop! Let her go!" Naomi screamed as she ran toward them. One of the men turned, surprised. He hadn't expected anyone to interfere. That moment of hesitation was all Naomi needed. She reached the van just as they were about to close the door. She grabbed the girl's arm and pulled hard, yanking her away from the kidnappers. "Run! Somebody call the police!" Naomi shouted to the growing crowd. The men cursed and jumped back into the van. They couldn't risk staying now that people were watching and phones were coming out. The van screeched away from the curb, leaving tire marks on the street. Naomi fell to her knees, holding the crying child close. The girl's white cane had fallen to the ground. Her small body was shaking with fear. The elderly woman was struggling to get up from where she'd been pushed. "You're safe now, sweetheart. You're safe. I've got you," Naomi whispered, stroking the girl's blonde hair. Her own hands were trembling. She had just witnessed an attempted kidnapping. She had just stopped it. The reality of what could have happened made her stomach turn. Have you ever seen something terrible happening and wondered if you'd be brave enough to act? Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in Naomi's place. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe to see how this moment of courage changes everything. Naomi Brooks had been working the morning shift at Corner Cafe for 3 years. She knew the routine by heart. Pour coffee, take orders, smile at regulars, clean tables, repeat. At 28 years old, she'd learned not to expect much excitement in her life. She lived in a small apartment in the city, sent money home to her mother in Georgia, and saved what little she could from her tips. That Tuesday started like any other. The cafe was busy with the usual morning rush. Business people grabbing coffee before work, students with laptops, elderly couples reading newspapers. Naomi moved between tables with practiced ease, balancing plates and remembering orders without writing them down. She was clearing table 6 when she first noticed the girl with the white cane outside. The child couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old. She had long blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore a pretty blue dress with white shoes. An elderly woman walked beside her, holding her hand gently as they made their way down the sidewalk. Naomi smiled. There was something sweet about watching them together. The old woman pointed out things to the girl, probably describing the world around her since the child couldn't see it herself. They stopped at the corner, waiting for the light to change. That's when everything went wrong. The white van appeared out of nowhere. It pulled up fast, jumping the curb slightly. 2 men in dark hoodies burst out of the sliding door. They moved with terrifying speed and purpose. The tray crashed from Naomi's hands. Coffee cups shattered on the floor. Other customers jumped up, startled by the noise. But Naomi wasn't looking at the mess. She was staring out the window at the horror unfolding on the sidewalk. One man grabbed the little girl around her waist. The other shoved the elderly woman so hard she fell backward onto the concrete. The child's cane clattered away. Her small hands reached out desperately, trying to understand what was happening in the darkness of her world. Time seemed to slow down. Naomi saw other people on the street turning to look, but no one was moving. Everyone was frozen in shock. The men were already at the van door, pushing the screaming child inside. Naomi didn't remember making the decision to run. Her body just moved. She tore off her apron as she rushed toward the door. Her manager shouted something behind her, but she didn't hear it. Nothing mattered except reaching that child. The summer heat hit her face as she burst outside. The sidewalk burned through her thin sneakers as she ran. The men had the girl halfway into the van now. The child's legs were kicking, her mouth open in a silent scream. "Stop. Let her go." Naomi's voice came out stronger than she felt. The man closest to her turned. His face was partially hidden by his hood, but she could see his eyes widen in surprise. He hadn't expected resistance. Neither of them had. Naomi didn't slow down. She reached the van and grabbed the girl's arm with both hands. The child's skin was soft and small under her fingers. She pulled as hard as she could, using all her weight. "Get off," one of the men snarled. But Naomi held on. She planted her feet and yanked backward. The girl came free suddenly, both of them tumbling to the ground. Naomi twisted her body to take the impact, cradling the child against her chest. People were running over now. Phones were out. Someone was already calling 911. The men cursed and jumped back into the van. The driver hit the gas, and they were gone, speeding through a red light and disappearing around the corner. Naomi sat on the hot pavement, her arms wrapped around the sobbing child. The girl's whole body shook. She clutched at Naomi's shirt, her small fingers gripping tight. "It's okay, baby. You're safe now. They're gone. I've got you," Naomi said softly, rocking the child gently. The elderly woman had managed to sit up. Her face was pale, and there was a scrape on her arm from where she'd hit the ground. "Sophie," she gasped. "Is Sophie okay?" "She's okay. She's safe," Naomi assured her. "What would you do if you witnessed a crime like this? Would you run toward danger or away from it? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to follow Naomi's incredible journey." The police arrived within minutes. 2 patrol cars pulled up with their lights flashing. Officers jumped out and immediately started securing the scene. One officer knelt beside Naomi and Sophie, speaking gently to the frightened child. Another helped the elderly woman, whose name was Mrs. Bennett, to her feet. Naomi gave her statement 3 times. She described the van, the men, everything she could remember. Her hands were still shaking. The adrenaline that had pushed her to act was wearing off now, leaving her weak and trembling. "You did an incredibly brave thing today," one of the officers told her. Most people would have frozen. Naomi just nodded. She couldn't stop looking at Sophie, who sat wrapped in a blanket despite the summer heat, still crying softly. Mrs. Bennett held the child's hand, murmuring reassurances, but the old woman looked shaken herself. That's when the black car arrived. It was an expensive vehicle, the kind Naomi only saw in movies. The door flew open before it had fully stopped, and a tall man in a business suit jumped out. His dark hair was messy, his tie loosened. The moment he saw Sophie, his face crumpled with relief and fear. "Sophie. Oh God, Sophie." He ran toward them. "Daddy." The girl's voice was small and broken. He dropped to his knees beside her, pulling her into his arms. Sophie buried her face in his chest, her small body racked with fresh sobs. The man held her tight, one hand cradling her head, his eyes squeezed shut. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. You're safe now," he whispered over and over. Naomi felt tears pricking her own eyes watching them. The raw emotion on the man's face, the desperate way he held his daughter, it was almost too private to witness. After several minutes, he gently pulled back to check Sophie over. His hands moved carefully over her arms and legs, making sure she wasn't hurt. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "A lady saved me, Daddy. A lady pulled me away from the bad men," Sophie said through her tears. The man's head snapped up. His eyes scanned the scene until they landed on Naomi. She was still sitting on the curb, her uniform dirty from the pavement, her hair falling out of its ponytail. He stood slowly and walked over to her. Naomi scrambled to her feet, suddenly very aware of how she must look. The man was clearly wealthy. His suit probably cost more than she made in 3 months. And here she was, covered in coffee stains and sidewalk dirt. "You saved my daughter." His voice was rough with emotion. Yes. I saw what was happening and I couldn't let them take her," Naomi said. "What's your name?" "Naomi Brooks." "Naomi. He said it like he was memorizing it. I'm Jonathan Price. And you just saved the most important person in my world. He held out his hand. Naomi shook it, noticing how firm his grip was, how his hand trembled slightly. Thank you, Jonathan said, his voice breaking. Thank you so much. I can't even find the words. Anyone would have done the same thing, Naomi said quietly. No. They wouldn't have. I watched the security footage that the police pulled from the store camera. Everyone else just stood there. You ran toward danger without hesitation. He paused, wiping his eyes. You gave up your safety for my daughter. Naomi didn't know what to say. She looked over at Sophie, who was being checked by a paramedic now. Is she going to be okay? Physically, yes. But this will scare her for a long time. Sophie is blind. She can't see threats coming. She relies on the people around her to keep her safe, and today. His voice trailed off. Mrs. Bennet tried to protect her. She got hurt trying, Naomi said quickly. I know. And I'm grateful to her too. But you're the one who stopped them. You're the one who brought my daughter back to me. Jonathan reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet. He took out a card and handed it to Naomi. This is my personal number. I want to do something for you. A reward. Anything you need. Naomi looked at the card. It was heavy stock, expensive. Mr. Price, I don't need a reward. I'm just glad Sophie is safe. Please. I insist. At least let me replace your uniform and compensate you for missing work today. Before Naomi could respond, Sophie called out, Daddy, where's the lady who saved me? I want to thank her. Jonathan gestured for Naomi to come over. She walked to where Sophie sat in the ambulance. Up close, she could see the girl's eyes were a beautiful hazel color, but they didn't focus on anything. She stared straight ahead into her permanent darkness. Hi, Sophie. I'm Naomi. Sophie reached out her hand, and Naomi took it gently. Thank you for saving me, Sophie said. I was so scared. I couldn't see what was happening. But then you were there and you kept me safe. Naomi's throat tightened. You're very welcome, sweetheart. You're a brave girl. Will I see you again? Sophie asked. Naomi glanced at Jonathan, unsure how to answer. He nodded encouragingly. I hope so, Naomi said. Jonathan walked Naomi back to her cafe once the police were done with their questions. Her manager was waiting, looking worried and relieved all at once. Take the rest of the day off, her manager said. Paid. What you did today, that was something special. That evening, Naomi's phone rang. It was Jonathan Price. Naomi, I've been thinking about what I can do to thank you properly, he said. I know you work at the cafe. What if I told you I could offer you a different position? Something that pays significantly more? Naomi's heart raced. What kind of position? Sophie needs someone. Someone kind and brave. Someone she already trusts. I'd like to hire you as her companion and caregiver. You'd help her with daily activities, spend time with her, keep her company. The salary would be 5 times what you make now, plus benefits and housing if you need it. Naomi's mind spun. 5 times her salary? That would change everything. She could help her mother more. She could save for her future. But more than that, she'd felt a connection to Sophie today. The little girl needed someone. I accept, Naomi said. When do I start? Naomi gave her 2-week notice at the cafe the next morning. Her co-workers were shocked but supportive. They'd all heard about the kidnapping attempt. Naomi had become something of a local hero, though she didn't feel like one. She'd just done what needed doing. Jonathan sent a car to pick her up 2 days later. He wanted her to come to the house to meet with Sophie properly and discuss the details of her new position. Naomi wore her best dress, a simple navy blue one she usually saved for church. As the car drove through increasingly wealthy neighborhoods, her nervousness grew. The Price estate sat behind tall gates. The driver punched in a code, and they swung open to reveal a long driveway lined with trees. The house at the end was more like a mansion. 3 stories, white columns, perfectly manicured lawns. Naomi had never been anywhere so grand. Jonathan met her at the door himself. He looked different from the panicked father she'd met on the sidewalk. Today he wore casual clothes, jeans, and a button-down shirt. His hair was combed, his face less haggard. But his smile was warm and genuine. "Naomi. Thank you for coming. Please, come in." The inside of the house was beautiful but not cold. There were photos on the walls, comfortable furniture, signs of real life. Toys in a basket. Books on shelves. A piano in the corner. "Sophie has been asking about you constantly," Jonathan said as he led her through the house. "She talks about her hero lady to everyone." They walked into a sunlit room where Sophie sat on the floor with Mrs. Bennet. The elderly woman's arm was bandaged, but she smiled when she saw Naomi. "Miss Naomi is here, Sophie," Mrs. Bennet said gently. Sophie's face lit up. She stood quickly, her hands reaching out. "Miss Naomi? I'm right here, sweetie." Naomi crossed the room and took Sophie's hands. "You came back. I was worried I'd never hear your voice again. I came back. And if it's okay with you and your dad, I'm going to be spending a lot of time with you from now on." Sophie's smile grew wider. "Really? You're going to stay?" "Yes. I'm going to be your companion. We'll do things together, and I'll help you with whatever you need." Sophie threw her arms around Naomi's waist, hugging her tight. Over the child's head, Naomi met Jonathan's eyes. He was watching them with an expression of such relief and gratitude that it made her chest ache. They spent the afternoon together. Jonathan showed Naomi around the house, explaining Sophie's routines and needs. Sophie had been blind since birth due to a rare genetic condition. She'd learned to navigate her world through sound and touch. She was bright and independent but needed supervision for safety. "Her mother passed away 2 years ago," Jonathan said quietly when Sophie was out of earshot. "Cancer. It's been just the two of us since then, with Mrs. Bennet's help. But Sophie needs more than what Mrs. Bennet and I can provide. She needs someone young and energetic. Someone who can keep up with her and help her experience the world." "I'll do my best," Naomi promised. "I know you will. You've already proven what kind of person you are." They discussed salary, hours, and expectations. Jonathan was incredibly generous. The amount he offered was more than Naomi had dreamed possible. When she tried to negotiate it down, saying it was too much, he refused. "You saved my daughter's life. This is the least I can do. Please accept it with my gratitude." So Naomi did. She accepted the offer, accepted the opportunity, accepted the chance to change her life. Within a week, she'd moved into a guest suite in the Price mansion. Jonathan insisted it would be easier if she lived on site, at least during the week. She could have weekends off to go home if she wanted. The first few weeks were an adjustment. Naomi learned Sophie's world. She learned how to describe things visually for a child who'd never seen. She learned Sophie's favorite games, her fears, her dreams. They read books together, Naomi doing all the voices. They listened to music and danced in the living room. They baked cookies, making a huge mess that had them both laughing. Sophie blossomed under Naomi's care. The fear from the kidnapping attempt began to fade. She smiled more, laughed more. She started sleeping through the night again without nightmares. Jonathan watched it all with quiet appreciation. He worked from home more often now, wanting to be present. Naomi would catch him watching them play, a soft expression on his face. One evening, after Sophie was in bed, Jonathan invited Naomi to join him for tea on the back terrace. The summer evening was warm, fireflies dancing in the garden. "You've been here a month," Jonathan said. "Sophie is like a different child. Happy again. Confident. She's an amazing little girl," Naomi said. "It's easy to care for her. It's more than that. You have a gift with her. She trusts you completely." He paused, looking out at the garden. "I want you to know how much this means to me. Seeing her happy again after everything we've been through, it's everything." Naomi felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'm happy to be here." And she was. For the first time in years, Naomi felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Summer turned to fall. Sophie started at a new school that specialized in education for visually impaired children. Naomi drove her there each morning and picked her up each afternoon. They developed routines and inside jokes. Sophie taught Naomi how to read Braille, and Naomi taught Sophie new songs on the piano. Jonathan's presence became more constant. He'd always been a devoted father, but now he seemed to relax more around the house. He joined them for meals, helped with homework, participated in their games. Naomi found herself looking forward to the evenings when the three of them would sit together in the living room. One night, Sophie fell asleep on the couch between them while they watched a movie with audio description for her benefit. Jonathan gently lifted her and carried her to bed. When he came back down, Naomi was cleaning up the popcorn bowls. "Leave those. Sit with me for a minute," Jonathan said. They sat on the couch where Sophie had been. The house was quiet around them. "I need to tell you something," Jonathan said. "The police caught one of the men who tried to take Sophie." Naomi's breath caught. "When?" "Last week. They've been watching pawn shops for the jewelry he stole from another victim. He tried to sell a necklace, and they arrested him." Jonathan rubbed his face tiredly. He confessed that they were hired to kidnap Sophie. Someone paid them to take her. "Who would do that?" Naomi asked, horrified. "They don't know yet. He claims he never met the person who hired them, only received instructions and payment through anonymous accounts. But the detective thinks it might be related to my business. I have competitors who play dirty. Or it could be someone trying to extort money from me. That's terrifying." "It is. The detective warned me they might try again with different people. They want me to increase security, vary our routines, stay vigilant." His voice was strained. "I'm scared, Naomi. I can't let anything happen to her. She's all I have." Without thinking, Naomi reached over and took his hand. Jonathan looked down at their joined hands, then up at her face. In the dim light, his eyes were vulnerable. "Sophie has me too," Naomi said softly. "I won't let anyone hurt her. We'll keep her safe together. I don't know what I'd do without you here." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "You've become so important to both of us." The moment stretched between them. Naomi felt her heart beating faster. She was very aware of how close they were sitting, how warm his hand felt in hers, how his eyes hadn't left her face. Then Jonathan pulled back gently, clearing his throat. "I should let you get some rest. Thank you for listening." Naomi stood, feeling flustered. "Of course. Good night, Jonathan." "Good night, Naomi." As she climbed the stairs to her room, Naomi's hand still tingled where he'd touched her. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling her racing heart. This was dangerous territory. Jonathan was her employer. Sophie's father. She couldn't develop feelings for him. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her. The tenderness in his voice. The trust in his eyes. Over the next weeks, something shifted between them. Small moments of connection. Jonathan's hand on her shoulder when he thanked her for something. Naomi laughing at his jokes over breakfast. The way they'd catch each other's eye across the room and smile. Sophie noticed. "Daddy smiles more when you're here, Miss Naomi," she said one afternoon while they were doing homework. "Does he?" "Yes. And his voice sounds happy. Before you came, he sounded sad all the time. Even when he tried to sound happy for me, I could tell he was sad inside." Naomi's throat tightened. "Your daddy loves you very much. He was probably just worried about you. I know he loves me. But now he's not just being brave for me. He's actually happy. Because of you." That evening, Jonathan worked late in his study. Naomi brought him coffee around 9 o'clock, knowing he often forgot to take breaks. "You didn't have to do that," he said, accepting the mug gratefully. "You need to take care of yourself too," Naomi said. "Sit with me a minute." Jonathan gestured to the chair across from his desk. Naomi Saturday. The study was lined with books, warm and comfortable. A fire crackled in the fireplace even though the fall evening wasn't that cold. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Jonathan said. "Next month is Sophie's birthday. She'll be 9. I want to throw her a party, but I'm nervous about having too many people here given the security concerns. What if we did something small? Just close friends and family?" That's what I was thinking. But I want to make it special for her. She's been through so much. He paused. Would you help me plan it? You know what she loves better than anyone. I'd love to help. They spent the next hour discussing party ideas. Music, games, a special cake. Jonathan wanted to hire musicians who could play instruments that Sophie could feel the vibrations from. Naomi suggested a petting zoo so Sophie could interact with animals. You're brilliant, Jonathan said, his face lighting up. She would love that. As they talked, Naomi felt the ease between them. They'd become a team without her quite realizing it. Partners in caring for Sophie, in building a home, in creating joy. Can I tell you something? Jonathan said suddenly. I haven't felt this comfortable with someone since my wife died. You've brought life back into this house. Into our lives. Naomi's pulse quickened. You and Sophie have given me a purpose I never had before. I love being here. Their eyes met and held. The air felt charged with possibility. Jonathan opened his mouth to say something, then seemed to think better of it. It's late. You should get some rest, he said instead. Naomi nodded and stood. As she reached the door, she looked back. Jonathan was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Longing. Hope. Fear. Good night, Jonathan. Good night, Naomi. Sophie's birthday party was a success. 10 children from her school came, along with their parents. The petting zoo was a hit. Sophie spent an hour gently petting rabbits and giggling as goats ate food pellets from her palm. The musicians played drums and strings that vibrated through the floor so the children could feel the music in their bodies. Naomi and Jonathan worked together seamlessly, making sure every child felt included and safe. They cut the cake together, Jonathan holding the knife while Naomi guided his hand so Sophie could help. When Sophie blew out her candles, making a wish she wouldn't tell anyone, she reached out for both of them at once. I have the best birthday ever, Sophie announced. And it's because Daddy and Miss Naomi love me so much. The party guests smiled. Several parents commented on what a beautiful family they made. Each time, Naomi felt a flutter in her chest. They weren't a family, not really. But it felt like they were becoming one. After the guests left and Sophie was in bed, exhausted and happy, Jonathan opened a bottle of wine. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to Naomi. To you, he said, raising his glass. For making today perfect. To us, Naomi corrected. We did it together. They clinked glasses. Naomi took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her. Come sit outside with me, Jonathan said. The stars are beautiful tonight. They settled onto the terrace, wrapped in blankets against the October chill. The sky above was clear and full of stars. Naomi described the constellations to Jonathan, who listened with a smile. You're good at that. Describing things. Sophie is lucky to have you. I learned from necessity. Sophie needs to understand the world even though she can't see it. I try to paint pictures with words. You do more than that. You bring everything to life. Jonathan shifted to look at her. Naomi, I need to be honest with you about something. Her heart began to race. What is it? These past months, having you here, it's changed me. Changed us. Sophie adores you. And I. He paused, seeming to gather courage. I find myself thinking about you all the time. Looking forward to seeing you each morning. Missing you when you take your days off. Naomi set down her wine glass with shaking hands. Jonathan. I know this is complicated. You work for me. You care for my daughter. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel something more. His eyes searched hers. Do you feel it too? She did. She'd been feeling it for weeks now. The pull toward him. The way her day felt brighter when he walked into the room. The tenderness that bloomed in her chest when she watched him with Sophie. Yes, she whispered. I feel it too. Jonathan reached over and took her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. If you need time, or if this is too much, tell me. I'll never do anything to jeopardize what you've built with Sophie. I care about both of you, Naomi said. But this scares me. What if it doesn't work? What if we try something and it fails? I can't lose Sophie. And I can't lose this life I've found here. Then we'll be careful. We'll take it slow. We'll make sure Sophie always comes first. Jonathan squeezed her hand. But I had to tell you how I feel. Life is too short to waste time hiding the truth. He was right. Naomi had learned that lesson when she'd run toward danger to save Sophie instead of freezing. Sometimes you had to be brave. I want to try, she said. Slowly. Carefully. But I want to see where this goes. Jonathan's smile was radiant. He lifted her hand and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Thank you. For being brave enough to give us a chance. Over the next weeks, their relationship deepened. They were subtle around Sophie, not wanting to confuse her. But in the evenings after she went to bed, they'd sit together. Talking about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Jonathan told her about his wife, how much he'd loved her, how lost he'd been when she died. I never thought I'd feel this way about someone again, he admitted. I thought that part of my life was over. But then you came into our lives like this force of nature. Brave and kind and beautiful. You reminded me that my heart could still feel. Naomi shared her own story. Growing up in Georgia, helping raise her younger siblings, coming to the city to make something of herself. Working minimum wage jobs while sending money home. How she'd felt invisible most of her life until the day she'd saved Sophie. You were never invisible, Jonathan said fiercely. You've always been extraordinary. The world just hadn't noticed yet. They shared their first kiss on a rainy November evening. Sophie was at a sleepover with a school friend. Jonathan had made dinner, and they'd eaten by candlelight. When he walked Naomi to her room, they stood in the hallway, neither wanting the night to end. Can I kiss you? Jonathan asked softly. Naomi nodded. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her gently. It was sweet and tender, full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Good night, Naomi. Good night, Jonathan. Do you believe in second chances at love? Have you ever taken a risk on something that scared you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to see what happens next in this heartwarming journey. December brought the first snow. Sophie was thrilled, touching the cold flakes that landed on her palms and melted. Naomi described the white world around them, how everything looked clean and new under its blanket of snow. The house felt magical during the holidays. Jonathan insisted on decorating for Christmas. They put up a tree that Sophie could feel, with textured ornaments she could identify by touch. Cinnamon-scented candles burned in every room. Holiday music played constantly. Naomi had never celebrated Christmas like this. Growing up, there hadn't been money for elaborate decorations or expensive gifts. Now she helped Sophie make paper chains and bake cookies shaped like stars. They sang carols together, Sophie's sweet voice mixing with Naomi's richer tones. Jonathan watched them with such love in his eyes that Naomi's heart ached. They'd become careful with their affection around Sophie, but the child was perceptive. Are you and Daddy in love? Sophie asked one afternoon while they were wrapping presents. Naomi's hands stilled on the ribbon. Why do you ask that, sweetie? Because you both sound happy. And when Daddy talks about you, his voice does this special thing. It's the same way it sounded when he talked about Mama. Naomi's throat tightened. Would it bother you? If your daddy and I cared about each other? Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. No. It would make me happy. Because then you'd stay forever. You wouldn't just be my caregiver. You'd be part of our family for real. I already feel like part of your family, Naomi said softly. Good. Because I love you, Miss Naomi. I love you too, Sophie. That evening, Naomi told Jonathan about the conversation. They were in his study, the fire crackling warmly. She asked if we were in love, Naomi said. Jonathan looked up from the documents he'd been reviewing. What did you say? I asked if it would bother her. She said it would make her happy. Naomi paused. Jonathan, are we in love? He stood and crossed to where she sat today. He knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. I love you, Naomi. I've known it for weeks now. I love your kindness, your courage, your laugh. I love how you care for my daughter. I love who I am when I'm with you. Tears sprang to Naomi's eyes. I love you too. I tried not to. I told myself it was too complicated, too risky. But I do. I love you. He kissed her then, deep and sure. When they pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. The moment was interrupted by Jonathan's phone ringing. He glanced at the screen and frowned. It's Detective Harris. I need to take this. Naomi watched his expression change as he listened. His face went pale, then hard. When? Are you sure? All right. Yes. Thank you for letting me know. He hung up and sat down heavily. That was the detective. They arrested the second kidnapper. He confessed that they'd been hired by someone who wants to get to me through Sophie. And he said there are others. The person who hired them has a backup plan. Fear clutched Naomi's heart. What kind of backup plan? They don't know details. But the threat is real and ongoing. The detective recommends we increase security significantly. Maybe even consider relocating temporarily until they catch whoever is behind this. We can't let Sophie's life be disrupted like that. She's finally happy and settled. I know. But her safety has to come first. Jonathan ran his hands through his hair. I'm installing more cameras. Hiring additional security. And I need you to be extra vigilant. Don't let Sophie out of your sight, even in the house. Of course. I won't let anything happen to her. Jonathan pulled Naomi into his arms, holding her tight. I can't lose either of you. You've both become my whole world. Over the next days, the house transformed. Security cameras appeared in every corner. A guard was stationed at the gate around the clock. Thomas, Jonathan's driver, received additional training in security protocols. Every visitor was screened carefully. Sophie noticed the changes and grew anxious. She started having nightmares again. Naomi would hear her crying in the night and go to comfort her. Why are the bad men trying to get me? Sophie asked one night, tears streaming down her face. Because some people think they can hurt your daddy by hurting you. But we're not going to let that happen. You're surrounded by people who love you and will keep you safe. Will you stay with me tonight? Sophie asked in a small voice. Of course, sweetheart. Naomi climbed into bed beside Sophie, holding her close until she fell asleep. She stayed there all night, watching over the little girl who'd become so precious to her. The tension in the house was thick. Jonathan became more protective, barely letting Sophie leave his sight. He started working from home exclusively. They cancelled their holiday plans to travel, deciding it was safer to stay put. On Christmas Eve, they tried to maintain normalcy for Sophie's sake. They opened gifts by the tree, drank hot chocolate, and sang carols. But Naomi could see the strain in Jonathan's face. The fear in his eyes every time Sophie was out of view for even a moment. That night, after Sophie was in bed, Jonathan and Naomi sat together on the couch. The Christmas tree lights twinkled softly. I'm sorry, Jonathan said. This isn't the life I wanted to give you. Fear and security guards and constant vigilance. I'm exactly where I want to be, Naomi said firmly. With you and Sophie. We'll get through this together. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. And Sophie deserves both of us fighting for her. Jonathan kissed her forehead. I love you. I love you too. And we're going to keep our little girl safe. January arrived cold and quiet. The new security measures became routine. Sophie adjusted to the constant presence of guards and cameras. Life found a new normal, albeit one shadowed by underlying fear. Naomi's relationship with Jonathan deepened. They'd told Sophie that they cared about each other in a special way, and she'd been overjoyed. Now they could show their affection openly. Small touches throughout the day. Kisses goodnight. Holding hands during movies. You're going to marry Daddy, aren't you? Sophie asked one morning at breakfast. Naomi nearly choked on her coffee. Jonathan looked up from his newspaper, eyebrows raised. What makes you say that, sweetheart? Naomi asked. Because that's what people do when they love each other. And you two love each other. I can tell. Sophie smiled. I think you should marry him. Then you'd really be my family. Jonathan reached across the table and took Naomi's hand. Sophie makes a good point. We've only been together a few months, Naomi said, though her heart was racing. True. But I knew my first wife was the one within weeks of meeting her. Sometimes you just know. Jonathan's eyes were serious. I know with you, Naomi. I know you're it for me. Later that day, after Sophie was at school, Jonathan asked Naomi to come to his study. She found him standing by the window, looking out at the snow-covered garden. I need to tell you something about my past, he said. About my wife and how she died. Naomi sat down, sensing this was important. Her name was Catherine. We met in college, got married young. She was brilliant and kind and full of life. When she got pregnant with Sophie, we were over the moon. Jonathan's voice was thick with emotion. But something went wrong during the birth. Catherine lost a lot of blood. She developed complications that led to other health problems. Within 2 years, she was diagnosed with cancer. We fought it together, but she died when Sophie was 6. I'm so sorry, Naomi said softly. After she died, I shut down. I focused entirely on work and Sophie. I told myself I'd never fall in love again, never remarry. It would be unfair to compare anyone to Catherine. He turned to face Naomi. But then you came into our lives. And I realized something. Loving you doesn't diminish what I had with Catherine. It's different. You're different. And that's okay. I'm not trying to replace her, Naomi said. I know. And that's one of the things I love about you. You honor her memory. You talk to Sophie about her mother. You never try to erase her. Jonathan crossed to kneel in front of Naomi's chair. You're your own person. And I love exactly who you are. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught. I know this is fast. I know we've only been together a few months. But I meant what I said this morning. I know you're the one. Will you marry me, Naomi? Will you be my wife and Sophie's mother? Tears streamed down Naomi's face. Her hands shook as she reached out to touch his face. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Jonathan opened the box, revealing a beautiful sapphire ring surrounded by small diamonds. I chose sapphire because it reminded me of the dress Sophie was wearing the day you saved her. The day you saved both of us. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Then he pulled her down into a kiss that was full of promise and hope. Can we tell Sophie right away? Naomi asked, laughing through her tears. Let's pick her up from school early. Make it special. They drove to Sophie's school together, barely able to contain their excitement. When Sophie came out, they told her they had a surprise. We're going out for ice cream, Jonathan said. In January? Sophie giggled. The best time for ice cream, Naomi agreed. At the ice cream parlor, they got Sophie's favorite flavor, chocolate chip. Once she was happily eating, Jonathan took her hand. Sophie, sweetheart, Naomi and I have something to tell you. You're getting married, Sophie said immediately. Jonathan laughed. How did you know? I could tell. You both sound so happy. Plus, Miss Naomi smells like she's been crying, but happy crying, not sad crying. You're right. We're getting married. Naomi is going to be your new mother. If that's okay with you. Sophie put down her ice cream and reached across the table. Naomi and Jonathan both took her hands. I think Mama would be happy, Sophie said seriously. She always wanted me to have someone to take care of me. And Miss Naomi is the best person I know. Besides you, Daddy. So you're happy about this? Naomi asked. I'm so happy I could burst, Sophie said. Can I call you Mom? Naomi's tears started again. I would be honored. The next weeks passed in a blur of happiness. They decided on a spring wedding. Small and intimate, just close friends and family. Sophie would be the flower girl. They'd get married in the garden, weather permitting. Naomi felt like she was living in a dream. How had her life changed so completely in less than a year? She'd gone from serving coffee to wealthy strangers to becoming one of them. From being alone to having a family. From wondering if she'd ever find love to being engaged to an amazing man. But beneath the joy, the threat still lingered. The person who'd tried to take Sophie was still out there. Still planning. Still dangerous. Naomi pushed the fear away. She focused on the present. On planning a wedding. On being a mother to Sophie. On loving Jonathan with her whole heart. They'd face whatever came together. February brought a warming trend. The snow melted, revealing brown grass and bare trees. Jonathan had a charity gala to attend for the Children's Hospital where Sophie received her specialized care. He was on the board of directors and couldn't miss it. We'll all go together, he decided. As a family. It'll be your first public appearance as my fiancé. Naomi was nervous. She'd never been to anything so formal. Jonathan took her shopping, insisting she pick out a beautiful dress. She chose a deep emerald green gown that made her dark skin glow. Sophie would stay with them, dressed in a pretty pink dress she'd helped pick out by feeling the fabric. The night of the gala, they arrived at the Grand Hotel ballroom as a family. Cameras flashed. People stared. Naomi held tight to Jonathan's arm, Sophie's hand in hers. "You're doing great," Jonathan whispered. "Just breathe." The event was overwhelming. Hundreds of wealthy people in expensive clothes. A 5-course meal. Speeches and presentations. But everywhere they went, people were kind. They congratulated Jonathan on his engagement. They complimented Naomi. They spoke sweetly to Sophie. "Your father does amazing work for this hospital," one doctor told Sophie. "Because of his donations, we can help so many children like you." Sophie beamed with pride. "My daddy is the best." Halfway through the evening, Jonathan was called away for photos with other board members. Naomi stayed with Sophie, sitting at their table. That's when she noticed them. 2 men in suits, standing by the wall. They weren't eating or mingling. They were watching. Specifically, they were watching Sophie. Naomi's instincts screamed danger. She stood, pulling Sophie close. "Let's go find your daddy, sweetie." "Okay, Mom." Sophie took her hand trustingly. As they moved through the crowd, Naomi kept looking back. The men were following them. Not obviously, but they were definitely trailing behind. Naomi's heart pounded. She looked around for security guards. There were several, but they were focused on the entrances and exits, not the crowd inside. "Thomas," Naomi said urgently when she spotted Jonathan's driver near the bathroom hallway. "I need you to get Jonathan. Now. Tell him it's urgent." Thomas saw the fear in her face and moved immediately. Naomi kept Sophie close, her body positioned between the child and the men. She didn't know if she was overreacting, but she couldn't take the risk. Jonathan appeared moments later, his face tense. "What's wrong?" "Those 2 men. They've been watching Sophie and following us." Naomi pointed them out. Jonathan's expression hardened. He signaled to the security guards. "Stay with Naomi and Sophie," he ordered Thomas. Then he and 2 guards approached the men. Naomi watched as Jonathan confronted them. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she saw the men's faces change from casual to panicked. They tried to leave, but the guards blocked their path. Within minutes, hotel security arrived. The men were escorted out. Jonathan returned, his jaw tight. They ran when the guards tried to question them. "Hotel security is reviewing the camera footage now. I've called Detective Harris." "I'm sorry if I overreacted," Naomi said. "You didn't. You kept Sophie safe. That's all that matters." He pulled both of them close. "We're leaving. Now." They left through a side entrance. Thomas brought the car around, and they drove home in tense silence. Sophie was quiet, sensing the fear around her. At home, Jonathan put Sophie to bed while Naomi paced the living room. When he came back down, Detective Harris was calling. The men were professional surveillance, the detective said on speakerphone. They had high-end equipment. The hotel caught them on camera arriving shortly after your family did. They were definitely targeting your daughter. But why just watch? Why not try to take her? Jonathan asked. We think they were gathering information. Learning your routines, your security measures. Planning their next move. The detective paused. Mr. Price, I strongly recommend you consider protective custody for Sophie until we can identify who's behind this. No. I'm not putting my daughter in some safe house away from us. Jonathan's voice was firm. We'll increase security here. But she stays with her family. After the call ended, Jonathan sank onto the couch. He looked exhausted. This is never going to end, is it? Naomi sat beside him, taking his hand. We'll figure it out. We'll keep her safe. You were amazing tonight. You spotted them immediately. Your instincts protected her. I wasn't going to let them get close to her. Jonathan pulled Naomi into his arms. They held each other in the quiet house, drawing strength from their connection. Over the next days, security tightened even further. Naomi didn't let Sophie out of her sight. They cancelled all outside activities. Sophie's school day was shortened, and Naomi stayed with her in the classroom. The strain was showing on all of them. Sophie became clingy and anxious. Jonathan barely slept. Naomi felt constantly on edge, jumping at every noise. I hate this, Sophie said one night as Naomi helped her get ready for bed. I hate that bad people want to hurt me. I hate that everyone is scared all the time. I know, sweetheart. But it won't be like this forever. How do you know? Because your daddy and I won't stop fighting until you're safe. And the police are working hard to catch the people responsible. Sophie hugged her tight. I'm glad you're here, Mom. I'd be so scared if it was just me and Daddy. Naomi's heart swelled. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the men at the gala. About the threat hanging over their family. She got up and walked quietly through the house, checking locks and cameras. In Sophie's room, she stood watching the sleeping child. So innocent and vulnerable. Someone wanted to hurt her simply because of who her father was. It made Naomi's blood boil. Can't sleep either? Jonathan's voice came from the doorway. Naomi turned. Just checking on her. She's safe. We have guards outside her door, cameras watching every angle. She's as protected as we can make her. I know. But I keep thinking, what if it's not enough? Jonathan came to stand beside her. Together they watched Sophie sleep. We're going to end this, Jonathan said quietly. Whatever it takes. I'll hire the best security in the world. I'll work with the police day and night. I'll do anything to keep our family safe. Our family, Naomi repeated. I love how that sounds. Me too. Jonathan kissed her temple. Come on. Let's try to get some rest. We need to be strong for her. As they left Sophie's room, Naomi looked back one more time. Tomorrow they'd face another day of fear and vigilance. But they'd face it together. March came in cold and windy. Detective Harris called Jonathan with news. They traced the money trail from the hired kidnappers to a series of shell corporations. The investigation was getting closer to identifying who was behind the attempts. We have a new lead, the detective said. One of the surveillance men from the gala cut a deal. He gave us a name. Daniel Winters. Does that mean anything to you? Jonathan's face went white. Daniel Winters was my business partner 5 years ago. We had a falling out over some questionable practices he wanted to engage in. I bought him out of the company. He sued me, claiming I'd stolen his ideas. He lost. Well, he's been nursing a grudge. The surveillance operative says Winters hired them to kidnap Sophie. The plan was to hold her ransom, force you to give him half your company. When the first attempt failed, he hired new people to try again. Where is he now? We're working on that. He's been living overseas but recently returned to the country. We have warrants out for his arrest. It's just a matter of time. Jonathan hung up and immediately told Naomi everything. Finally, they had answers. Finally, they knew who was threatening their family. How long until they catch him? Naomi asked. The detective said it could be days or weeks. Winters is smart. He'll try to hide. Jonathan paced the living room. But at least now we know. We can prepare, We can end this. That weekend, Jonathan insisted they do something normal for Sophie's sake. They'd been cooped up in the house for weeks. Sophie was becoming withdrawn and sad. Let's go to the park, Jonathan suggested. The one with the sensory garden that Sophie loves. We'll bring Thomas and extra security. She needs fresh air and freedom. Naomi was nervous but agreed. They couldn't keep Sophie prisoner forever. She needed to be a child. The park was beautiful in the early spring. The sensory garden had plants with different textures and smells for visually impaired visitors. Sophie loved running her hands over the fuzzy lamb's ear leaves and smelling the aromatic herbs. Thomas and 2 security guards stood nearby, watching carefully. Naomi and Jonathan stayed close to Sophie, letting her explore but keeping her in arm's reach. This is nice, Sophie said, her face turned up to the weak sunshine. I missed being outside. We missed it too, sweetheart, Naomi said. They were heading back toward the car when Naomi noticed a man in a dark coat standing by the parking lot. He was watching them. Her body tensed immediately. Jonathan, she said quietly. He followed her gaze and saw the man. His hand went to his phone, ready to call for help. Thomas started moving toward them. The man pulled something from his coat. Naomi's heart stopped. But it wasn't something that could hurt them. It was a phone. He was taking pictures. That's not one of our security, Jonathan said. Get Sophie to the car. Naomi scooped Sophie up and ran. Thomas and the guards moved to intercept the man. Naomi heard shouting behind her but didn't look back. She got Sophie to the car and locked the doors. What's happening, Mom? Sophie asked, her voice frightened. Everything's okay, baby. We're safe in the car. Through the window, Naomi watched Thomas and the guards tackle the man. They wrestled him to the ground. Jonathan was on his phone, probably calling the police. Within minutes, police cars arrived. The man was handcuffed and put in a patrol car. Detective Harris pulled up shortly after. Naomi watched through the car window as Jonathan talked with the detective. Finally, he came back to the car, his face tight. They got him. That was Daniel Winters himself. What? Naomi gasped. He couldn't resist. He wanted to see Sophie with his own eyes. He was planning one more attempt, today, in the park. But when he saw our security, he hesitated. That hesitation got him caught. Naomi felt tears of relief streaming down her face. It's over. It's over. In the back seat, Sophie started crying too. Really, Daddy? The bad man who wanted to hurt me is caught. Really, sweetheart. You're safe now. We're all safe. The drive home was surreal. After months of fear and constant vigilance, it was suddenly over. Daniel Winters was in custody. He'd confessed to everything, hoping for a better deal. The police had all the evidence they needed. At home, they sat together in the living room. Sophie between them on the couch, all of them just breathing and holding each other. I can't believe it's really over, Naomi said. We can live normal lives now. Sophie can go back to regular school schedules. We can go out without fear. Jonathan looked at both of them. We can plan our wedding without looking over our shoulders. When can we get married? Sophie asked. I want us to be a real family officially. Soon, sweetheart, Jonathan promised. Very soon. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Jonathan and Naomi sat on the terrace under the stars. The same place where he'd first told her he loved her. I was thinking April, Jonathan said. For the wedding. The garden will be in bloom. The weather will be perfect. And it's soon enough that we don't have to wait long. April sounds perfect. I want to adopt you, Sophie had said earlier, making them both laugh. So your last name can be Price too, Mom. You don't adopt adults, sweetheart, Jonathan had explained. But Naomi will take our name when we get married. Now, sitting under the stars, Naomi thought about how much her life had changed. A year ago, she'd been a waitress wondering if she'd ever amount to anything. Now she was engaged to a wonderful man, mother to an incredible child, and part of a family she loved with her whole heart. What are you thinking about? Jonathan asked. About how one moment can change everything. If I hadn't looked out that window at the right time, if I hadn't run to help Sophie, none of this would have happened. You were meant to be there that day. Meant to save her. Meant to save both of us. Jonathan pulled her close. I believe that. We were meant to be a family. So do I. They sat in comfortable silence, planning their future. A future that was finally safe and bright and full of possibility. April arrived with an explosion of spring flowers. The garden at the Price estate was transformed into a wonderland of color. Tulips and daffodils lined the paths. Cherry blossoms drifted in the breeze. The air smelled like fresh growth and new beginnings. Naomi stood in her bedroom, looking at herself in the mirror. Her wedding dress was simple but elegant, ivory silk that flowed to the floor. Her natural hair was styled in soft curls around her face. She wore the sapphire engagement ring on one hand and her late grandmother's bracelet on the other. You look beautiful, Mom, Sophie said from where she sat on the bed. Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself. Sophie's flower girl dress was pale pink with a silk sash. She clutched her basket of rose petals, ready for her important job. There was a knock on the door. Naomi's mother entered, tears already in her eyes. Oh, baby. Look at you. Hi, Mama. Naomi hugged her tight. Her family had arrived yesterday from Georgia. Her mother, her two sisters, her brother. They'd all been amazed by the house, by Jonathan, by how much Naomi's life had changed. I'm so proud of you, her mother said. You found real love. And you found it by being exactly who you are, brave and kind. I'm nervous, Naomi admitted. That's natural. But that man down there loves you something fierce. And this little girl thinks you hung the moon. You're getting everything you deserve. Music started playing in the garden. Classical strings, soft and romantic. It was time. Naomi's brother walked her down the aisle. The garden was set up with white chairs in rows, an altar covered in flowers at the end. There were maybe 40 people there, close friends and family. Nothing grand or showy. Just people who mattered. But Naomi only saw Jonathan. He stood at the altar in a grey suit, his eyes locked on her. As she walked toward him, she saw him wipe away tears. Sophie went first, carefully dropping rose petals along the path. She'd practiced 100 times and knew every step. When she reached the end, Mrs. Bennet guided her to her seat in the front row. Then Naomi was there, standing across from Jonathan. Her brother kissed her cheek and sat down. The music quieted. The minister began the ceremony. Naomi barely heard the words. She was lost in Jonathan's eyes, in the promise she saw there. When it came time for vows, Jonathan took her hands. Naomi, a year ago I was lost. I was going through the motions of life but not really living. Then you ran toward danger without hesitation and saved my daughter. You saved me too, though I didn't know it yet. You brought light back into our lives. You brought joy. You brought love. His voice cracked. I promise to love you every day for the rest of my life. To be your partner, your best friend, your home. I promise to build a life with you that honors the courage that brought us together. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for being brave. Naomi's tears flowed freely. Jonathan, you gave me a purpose when I needed one most. You saw me as more than just someone who worked for you. You saw my heart. Sophie taught me what it means to love a child completely. Together, you two showed me what family really means. She squeezed his hands. I promise to love you both with everything I have. To stand beside you through good times and hard times. To be Sophie's mother and your wife with my whole heart. I promise to keep being brave for us. For this family we've made. The minister smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Jonathan pulled Naomi close and kissed her. The small crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Sophie clapped the loudest, calling out, "That's my mom and dad." The reception was held on the terrace. There was dinner and dancing and cake. Sophie gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. I used to be scared a lot, Sophie said, speaking into the microphone. I couldn't see the world, so it felt really big and dangerous. But then Miss Naomi. I mean Mom, she came into my life. And she helped me understand that being scared is okay. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Mom did that for me. And she keeps doing it every day. Daddy, you picked the best person in the whole world to marry. I'm so happy she's really my mom now. Jonathan swept Sophie into his arms, both of them crying. Naomi joined them, wrapping her arms around her family. As the sun set and the party continued, Naomi found a quiet moment to stand at the edge of the terrace. She looked out at the garden, at her family and friends celebrating, at the life she'd somehow stumbled into. No regrets. Jonathan appeared beside her, slipping his arm around her waist. Not a single one. Good. Because you're stuck with us now. He kissed her temple. Mrs. Price. I like the sound of that. Sophie ran over, grabbing both their hands. Come dance with me. It's a family dance. The three of them went to the dance floor. They swayed together to the slow song, Sophie in the middle, holding tight to both her parents. Around them, guests smiled and took pictures. Naomi's mother wiped away tears. Thomas, standing guard out of habit more than necessity, grinned widely. This is the happiest day of my life, Sophie announced. Mine too, sweetheart, Jonathan said. Mine too, Naomi agreed. As they danced under the spring stars, Naomi thought back to that moment a year ago. The moment she'd looked out a cafe window and seen a child in danger. The moment she'd chosen to run toward fear instead of away from it. That one decision, that one act of courage, had led her here. To love. To family. To home. Sometimes being brave for just one moment can change your entire life. Naomi had learned that lesson the hard way. But standing here now, surrounded by love, she knew she'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Her family was worth every risk. 6 months later, they stood in the same garden for another celebration. Sophie's adoption was finalized, making Naomi legally her mother. There was cake and presents and joy. I have 2 last names now, Sophie announced proudly. Sophie Catherine Price, after my first mama. And my second mama is Naomi Brooks Price. I'm so lucky I got 2 amazing moms who love me. That night, tucking Sophie into bed, Naomi brushed the hair from the girl's forehead. I love you so much, Sophie. I love you too, Mom. Thank you for being brave that day. Thank you for saving me. You saved me too, sweetheart. You and your daddy both saved me. As Naomi turned out the light and closed Sophie's door, she felt Jonathan's arms wrap around her from behind. Our daughter is asleep, he murmured. Our beautiful, happy, safe daughter. Our daughter, Naomi repeated, loving the sound of it. They walked to their bedroom, hand in hand. Outside the window, the garden glowed in the moonlight. The same garden where they'd married. The same garden where they'd promised to love each other forever. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, dreaming of happy things. No more nightmares. No more fear. Just love and safety and the knowledge that she was cherished. This was what Naomi had been searching for her whole life without knowing it. Not wealth or status or a fancy house. But this feeling of completeness. Of belonging. Of being exactly where she was supposed to be with the people she was meant to love. She'd found her family. She'd found her home. She'd found her happily ever after. And it had all started with one brave moment. One decision to run toward danger instead of away from it. One choice to be a hero. Sometimes that's all it takes. One moment of courage to change everything. Thank you for reading Naomi, Jonathan, and Sophie's story. If this tale of bravery and love touched your heart, please subscribe for more heartwarming stories. Share in the comments what being brave means to you, and don't forget to share this story with someone who needs hope today.